Let's continue on to the story in verse 14. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine rose in the country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into the fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, "How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I will perish with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants.'" The second point is returning to the father. The son cashes out his inheritance, and he takes it for granted. He goes and he squanders it. He lives however he wants to live. And then when the money runs out, he ultimately returns home to his father. For us, do we take our blessings for granted? Do we only turn to God when we need something? I think many of us can relate to this in different parts of our lives, that sometimes we take the things that God has given us for granted, our heavenly inheritance, if you will, and we only turn to God when we need something. We don't have that ongoing relationship that the Father longs for his Son here in the story. God longs for that relationship with us. He'll give us what we ask for and send us on our way, but that's out of love, and he wants us to return that love. He wants us to have that relationship with him, not just to take what he gives us and goes and live however we want. That's taking advantage of God's grace. That's taking advantage of his mercy, taking advantage of his forgiveness, and that's wrong. We're not supposed to do those things. If we want to live in light of who God is and what he did for us by sending Jesus to die on the cross, we have to return that love, not just in words, but also in deeds and in our hearts. Also, in the story, when the money runs out, all the new friends that the son made, they were gone. When he was in need, he was alone. We need to know who our true friends and our true family are. The son is left by himself when the cash stops flowing. We all have people in our lives who are like that. They're there for the good times, but when we have times of need, times of trouble, they're nowhere to be found. But through this all, God is always there. He is always with us. And the son knew that because he realizes that he didn't just sin before his father, he sinned before heaven. He sinned before his heavenly Father. When we live on our own and we take for granted the things that God has given us, we're sinning before the Father in heaven. We don't have to bargain with God to receive his love, but we do need to come home. It's not just I don't just mean going to church, finding a place to attend around Christmas. I mean to go home in faith in your heart. To acknowledge God as your heavenly Father. Not just as Lord and God, but as your Father. Someone who loves you, someone who created you, someone who is there through thick and thin. God will never leave you. He will never forsake you. He loves you more than you can imagine.